A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. I'm Ritvika Gupta. Now, India's wedding industry is touted as a billion-dollar opportunity. From clothing to events, apparels, food, logistics, it is truly a marriage of various sectors. But what's interesting to note is that the industry is made up of many small-scale companies. Tonight on the show, we're going to speak to two such companies who are disrupting India's wedding landscape. In the first segment, I'll be chatting with Anand Shahani, co-founder and CEO at WEDMEGOOD. And in the second segment, I'll be joined by Parthip Tyagarajan, co-founder and CEO WEDDINGSUTRA. Thank you, Anand, for joining us today on Leaders of Tomorrow.
Thank you for having me.
So, to kick this off, Anand, let's talk about the wedding landscape in India. What are the opportunities do you see in this space currently?
No, I think every Indian knows how big this industry is. It's actually one of the industries which is similar in size to like big countries like the US, $45 to $50 billion, which you don't usually see. But obviously, a lot of it has evolved, especially post-COVID. One opportunity which I think most people are aware of is destination weddings. It's not just a fad or a trend anymore. People across budgets, even if they're having an intimate 50 to 100 people wedding, are looking at potentially considering a destination where a few select close family and friends have an amazing time, rather than it becoming more of a formal affair, right? To obviously the larger than life weddings happen in palaces and on the beaches of Goa, which are massive. For us, obviously, being a tech-enabled platform, we chase a lot of opportunities where technology and digital can disrupt. So, for example, e-invitations. One thing which has happened in the last couple of years is very, very few people believe in sending a physical invite to the entire 200, 250 families who are invited. Right? So they're giving a digital invite that has become primary, and the physical invite has become secondary. So there are quite a few opportunities and changes in the ecosystem which we are actively tracking and believe in.
So then tell me about WEDMEGOOD. What was your initial motivation to set up the company, and how are you really redefining wedding planning in India?
So we started almost 10 years back. Mehak and I, my wife and co-founder, we got married in 2012. And I say this, interestingly, my father doesn't love me saying this, but the reality is that because we couldn't really use any images which our photographer clicked because they weren't that great, that was one of the inspiration behind starting a platform which helps people book people after checking their reviews, detailed work, rather than just relying on referrals of friends and family, right? And obviously, as time evolves, your motivations behind the company change, right? Sure. When we started, we just wanted to put out great content which people can get inspired from and incorporate in their wedding, check vendor reviews so that they can make an informed decision. But now a lot of our goals are, end-to-end wedding being planned on WEDMEGOOD. So when you said, how are we disrupting the landscape? Things like you having a checklist on the WEDMEGOOD app which ensures that you've covered everything, right? A person being able to filter across styles, across budgets, being able to see detailed portfolios of any partner. We invest a lot in review moderation to ensure that genuine reviews are showcased. So these are some of the things which even users speak about, when we hear feedback from them.
Sure. So, Anand, our show, Leaders of Tomorrow, it caters to a lot of MSMEs as well, a lot of independent entrepreneurs. And while the wedding industry, like you said, it's a billion-dollar opportunity, what's noteworthy is that, it's also, I think it comprises of a lot of small-scale businesses, companies, right? Tell me, in your opinion, what is the role of the MSME sector in the wedding industry?
For sure. In fact, the wedding industry, the largest, I would say, concentration of revenue is among the MSMEs. If we've listed about 1.5 lakh merchants across categories, I would say barely 25 to 50 of them must be having firm turnovers excess of 50 crores. There are lots of reasons for that. It's an industry where mass production which is where typically scale comes from, isn't very easy. It's made to size, it's customized basis a person's individual tastes. There are a lot of artists in the industry. So it is primarily comprised of MSMEs, to be honest, and a lot of good artists who sort of enter the industry over the course of just 4-5 years, become like the next big thing and start charging a very massive amount for their art, which is quite good for them, right? For us as a platform, working with these MSMEs also ensures that we cover a lot of basics which otherwise people might take for granted. So right from verifying the genuinity of these profiles, checking if they've registered their businesses, because users still want to know that it's a genuine brand and they don't want to get fleeced, right? What is the extent of digital payments which they accept? So these are the things which we're working on to sort of overall organize the industry. But yeah, you're right, MSME is the backbone of the wedding industry.
So speaking of high profile dream weddings which you mentioned, so in India, we all love our big fat Indian weddings, but I am keen to understand, what do you think is the economic impact of that? Do you think we are spending a lot more in terms of consumers, or do you think overall it is actually good for the economy? Yeah, this extravagance, what's your take on that?
It's an interesting word you used, extravagance, right? Personally, I would be honest, we don't believe that this is one industry which necessarily is sort of making people overspend as compared to any others. You see, any large ticket purchase, whether it's a TV, white goods, a car, buying a home, right? It is a big purchase. People tend to sometimes spend beyond their means because these are emotional purchases, right? Sure. The good thing is that time is passé to a large extent, where families used to pile on tons of debt which they couldn't necessarily service just because of societal pressure that they have to showcase a certain kind of a wedding. It still happens, but thankfully it's becoming lower and lower as time passes, and we absolutely encourage that. If a family has the means to spend and wants to have a great time, a memorable time, because weddings do get families together. I mean, at the end of the day, how many occasions does one remember where you remember it for so many years later, look out for those photos. Weddings is definitely one of them.
And I think one aspect that we did not really touch upon, is the destination weddings, that's happening. I think you mentioned it, yeah. But tell me, is there a synergy between that and the tourism sector in India? Can they impact each other? Are they already impacting each other?
There's a massive synergy. In fact, one of the recent initiatives of the Incredible India campaign by the Ministry of Tourism is India Says I Do, right? Which is a fantastic initiative in terms of encouraging the local audience, as well as NRIs, as well as maybe even the Western world, to consider India, which is, everybody is aware, so diverse as a country. There's so many options. It's not just a Goa or the palaces of Rajasthan which are relevant, right? Every state has maybe one or if not two locations which are relevant for a destination wedding with its own unique characteristics, right? So there's a massive synergy between weddings and tourism, right? And like I said, it also is a good way of sort of offsetting the seasonality aspect, where the last thing we would want to do in today's world with climate change and so on and stuff is doing over tourism, right? But there could be some relatively lean months where we've already seen a lot of destinations rolling out the red carpet for families planning a wedding, and that sort of making sense for them and helping them survive during those lean months as well.
Wonderful. Well, I think those were some really insightful takeaways. Anand, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. On that note, it's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11 in conversation now with WEDDINGSUTRA. I'm now joined live by Parthiv, CEO and co-founder of WeddingSutra. Thank you, Parthiv, for joining us today.
Thank you, Ritika.
So to begin with, Parthiv, tell us about some of the trends that are taking wing this season in the wedding industry, and really give us an overview of India's wedding landscape.
When we talk of the wedding industry, we've seen how it's grown exponentially post-COVID. And one of the interesting observations is in the H&I segment, the costs are being split between the groom and the bride side.
Sure.
That's really good news for those who are orchestrating, planning, or providing their services for big and magnificent celebrations. I would say a lot has changed and a lot has not changed. In some families, the bride's parents or the groom's parents continue to call the shots, and in many cases, it's the bride and the groom who decide how the money is to be spent.
Absolutely.
In most cases in India, again, it works favorably for the wedding industry. It's the parents who spend. It is the case, and it may continue to be this case. But all this is, again, good news for wedding planners and professionals, because the money is coming from those who have saved for 3 decades or more.
So, Parthiv, the Indian wedding industry consists of numerous small-scale companies and individual service providers. If you can talk to us about the role and the impact of MSMEs, in India's wedding industry, what can you tell us?
What is really interesting is beyond wedding planning, there exist opportunities for numerous entrepreneurs who are running a business which is employing 100 plus people, and also there is also space for many entrepreneurs who are running a business from home. These include decorators, sound and light providers, car rental people, those who are, and many of these players are doing very well in the destination wedding hotspots. And there are so many elements which are part of the big Indian wedding, be it the bartenders, the chaatwalas, the fruitwalas, the juicewalas, when you come to the F&B counter.
Sure.
And you have mobile spas, you have special giveaways for the room. So we cannot really compartmentalize the wedding industry, because all these entrepreneurs are contributing to the celebrations economy and the happiness economy.
Absolutely. So also, in recent years, we have seen a rise in a number of wedding startups and companies like yours. Tell me, how are you disrupting the traditional wedding economy in India?
Thank you for sharing this question. We launched WeddingSutra 23 years ago, that's right, in the year 2000. The year we launched, there were 50 other wedding portals. And of course, you're going to ask me, what happened? Many of them tried bringing about a revolutionary change. We didn't do that. We didn't expect people to book their wedding halls online way back in 2000. We didn't expect them to buy Kanjivaram saris online. What we did was inspire, inform, and educate. We continue to do that today. We are currently offering very engaging content, and we do a lot of B2B events which bring the fraternity together. What we are not doing is bringing about a kind of change which, say, Uber brought in to public transport. You may ask, why are we not doing that? Simply because we know who has tried and how they tried.
Sure.
And what the industry is ready for now. I may not be 100% right, and I don't know how much is going to change, say, 10 years later. But one thing is for sure, we've survived because we've understood the complexities, and we've not attempted to bring a change where change cannot happen, or where change can happen only with spends and more spends, and no returns even in the medium term.
Now, sustainability is also a very important concern, among various industries. Tell me, what's the role of sustainability in India's wedding industry? Are we addressing environmental concerns in the right way, or do you think, we can do a better job?
A lot of brides look at vendors who worked on sustainable weddings when they start their search. Some of it is workable, but sustainable. Very few Indian weddings can be completely, what I could call fit the destination of sustainable wedding. A simple example: flowers are very important part of our culture and celebrations, and it's also very inclusive in one way, right? So you have so many children at a wedding. Is it practical to have glass bottles if the venue is not carpeted? It's not a celebration like we have in the West, where there are just 200 adults. You could have 2,000 guests at a wedding. If not 2,000, you could have 500. But couples are embracing some simple practices. For example, hiring the services of a waste management company to ensure that the garbage is properly distributed, rather than it being a wedding where there are 0 flowers and there's no plastic, among other things.
Sure, and even destination weddings have gained immense popularity over the last few years, barring of course 2020 and 2021. But tell me the role of destination weddings, and how has that impacted India's economy and even the tourism sector? What's your take on that?
So international destination weddings took off around 2010 and 2011, and Goa, Rajasthan, among other destinations, slowly gained popularity just only a few years before that. Besides Goa, Rajasthan, we've seen Mahabalipuram, Dehradun, Rishikesh, Mussoorie, Siliguri in the east, among other destinations which are doing well with outstation guests coming in. And most recently, I even attended a program organized by Punjab Tourism, where they were looking at getting inspired more by Rajasthan and promoting Amritsar and Chandigarh among foreigners and NRIs. All these destinations attract NRIs, and they do destination weddings. But what destination marketers look for is really projecting it as an exclusive destination. They are looking at associations with influencers, celebrities. That is only possible if the hotels there are able to offer their venue spaces for a suitable location for HNI families. We've seen a lot of hotels have played a big role in promoting a destination. We've seen what Suryagarh has done in Jaisalmer, what Mayfair has done in Siliguri. I'm not even talking about the palace hotels, but yes, even say a Falaknuma in Hyderabad. And destination weddings will continue to grow. I would think that if you look at I'm not even talking of the ultra HNI segment, but if you look at the upper middle class families and HNIs, still probably only 10 to 12% are having a destination wedding. So even if it grows to 15% or 18%, you can imagine the immense growth and potential.
And finally, tell us, what advice would you have for entrepreneurs, or investors who are looking to enter India's wedding industry? How can they navigate this competitive landscape?
As I mentioned before, Ritvika, beyond wedding planning, there exists so many possibilities for entrepreneurs. A lot of these are relationship-driven businesses, and it's all about personalization, client management. So if the investor is looking at something which is hugely scalable, or which can be kind of fulfilled through a e-commerce platform, it may not always be possible. But one thing is for sure, this industry is only going to grow. It's recession proof, and there is space for many creative entrepreneurs, service companies,
sure,
to do well either in the luxury space, and I'm sure in the near future to offer something which truly fulfills the requirements of young couples who may not want to spend a huge sum on their wedding.
Well, it was great chatting with you, Parthiv. Thank you so much for joining us. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. We hope you enjoyed the conversations. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.